And there's a bunch of different ways to cut up value, like what is value, but
yes, because it's relative to
right.
who you're delivering it to. Sure.
But it directly connects to what you said about the pay cut and happiness, where
Yes.
you were in a situation where you were just like, I like these people, this is good, this is the message I need to hear, how can I help?
Yep.
You know, and so that was value to them. They weren't looking for a position. You just offered something with no real expectations.
Right, no agenda.
Yeah, exactly.
That
And
was a
then
big deal.
a lot of times that can turn into some really good,
Sure.
really good stuff.
Yeah,
I'm not a religious person. I don't follow.
I don't know that I am either.
Right,
I think there's a little distinction between being spiritual
Right.
and following a religion.
Well, then how do you feel about karma?
I mean, I don't get into all of that
Okay,
kind
cool.
of stuff.
I don't either, but there is definitely energy.
I think so, and
Yeah.
I do think that, you know, there is a path that we're sort of set on, and things happen to us, and I guess that's your karma, and you have to figure out how in this life you want to navigate those things. And I think that a spiritual practice or a movement practice or a jujitsu practice, all of these things help us navigate those things.
Well, and even more on just a fundamental level in terms of energy. Meaning, like if you're in a conversation with somebody and you start it with an angry tone,
Sure.
you probably expect to receive an angry tone
Yes.
back.
Yeah.
But if you started in a gentle tone,
Right.
it wouldn't be outlandish for you to expect a gentle tone back. You might
Sure.
not always get it, but the same with that energy and that spirit of giving and just expectationless service.
Yeah.
You know, oftentimes it will reciprocate, and that can be really great. And I've benefited from the same in a number of ways in the last few years.
Giving and receiving.
And just not having an agenda and just like laying into things that I really think are valuable and just wanting them to succeed.
Yeah.
And then they bring, whether it's financial, spiritual, physical, a combination of the three, a lot of really great benefits have come from that. And just like kind of riding that wave and thinking that way more, especially in terms of business, it's hard to let go of the dollar.
Sure.
You can't completely, or you're going to be broke and out in the
There's
street.
also a little bit of sort of stigma attached to it. It's like, well, what are you doing this for if you're not doing it for this? Or don't you want to grow your business? I used to hear that a lot. And it was hard because my default is also working from big companies where that was the goal. Everything was about
dealt with
maximizing.
it a lot. I mean, you know from owning a family-owned business and seeing what happens there and the big company side.
For me to undo all of that, there was sort of like, it was literally like a default where I was like, wait, I don't have to do that anymore.
Yeah, I know.
But in order to just sort of follow your heart, it takes a lot of faith. You know, you really have to let yourself be guided. It's not.
Well, I think you might think you might have practiced and like done whatever you've done for a long time and feel like I know what's going to happen, and you still don't know.
No.
It's always a leap of faith. It's just a matter of like what you've convinced yourself what the outcome is, the potential outcome is going to be like. You have no idea, and like I think the more you embrace that, the smoother things can go too, and be very jujitsu like response, just like feel where the pressure is coming from instead of thinking I'm going to smash that pressure and push back. Kind of
the softer you become. I mean, that's I was having a conversation with somebody the other day about making making a transformation in your life, and I was like, you sort of soften against the stuff that's coming at you so that you can find your way around it.
And when you don't have a choice, like when it's bigger than you, it's overwhelming.
Yeah, it's
kind of like when you and I
way.
train, and I'm just like smashing your face into the mat.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly how it is.
So I'm curious, and I have been since you said that night, because I have it on video when you said that, and I was like, "Whoa, stop the bus! I got to write this down." Like that was great. Where did that come from? Where it's a pretty profound statement.
Yes,
and it was like all these business people around, and like nobody else was like saying anything like that. And
I've never said it before, but I think it's just I just relate how I really feel. I do address everything that I do for the most part from the point of being of service, of being useful. I would like to have a positive, just whatever. I don't want to say impact or whatever. Just anybody to have a positive experience, whatever I'm experiencing. And so I think what I meant is that you kind of can't. There's nothing to fake. You have to, the thing that's of value is real, right? Mm-hmm. And that's the only way that it's. I think that's kind of where I was coming from. So I said, can you repeat what I said to me?
I can.
You're only being of service if you're delivering something of value, correct?
Otherwise, you're not serving anybody.
Yeah, because. But I said it because for me, I don't remember the content. I don't remember what we were talking about before. But I think it was about actually how do you put your stuff out there. And I think that what I was trying to get at is being sincere and being real about what it is that you're putting out there. Look, I do the painting thing, for instance.
Right.
That as much as I love my job, and it's a full-time job, I did miss. I missed touching pencils and those kind of things. And so, but I had rejected everything about being in fashion, about advertising, about all of that kind of stuff. So then when I started to talk about, well, I have these, if you want to buy them, it became, I had to sort of work on it. I had to like reset myself and figure out how was I going to do it. And for me, the best way was to be sincere, I think. And that's what I was thinking I was saying.
So wait,
just really be...
Just to recap, you worked for a big company, you owned your own business,
I did everything backwards.
On the side, you make your own clothes and just sell them, like,
so what happened,
hustle. You might be an entrepreneur if,
yes. I mean, look, the long version.
You're so funny
because
you're like, I'm not an entrepreneur.
Oh, I know. And you'll talk to Professor Laurel, and I talk about it all the time. Yeah. But I wanted to follow anything that I felt was going to give me joy, and it did. I started to paint just for myself. I had a ton of black clothes. That's all I ever wore, and I had this one bottle of paint that takes color out of black, and so I just started to do it, and people were like, "Oh, can I have one?" And I gave them away. And then I ran out of that stuff, and then I realized it costs money to. I mean, I did not know these things, but if in a perfect world, I'd be just giving this stuff away, and it wouldn't, take the time that it does to make it. And so, I wanted to be involved in a charitable project, and so I sort of tied those two things together. So I give money from everything I paint to an organization, and I think that's where I was coming from when I said it. That but I think it was because I think the coffee guy had said something about posting and
there was something brewing in the air for sure. But again, just thinking of like even deeper, I didn't know if it was like you had read something that pertained to that.
I think I just I think there's a lot of. I think it can be easy, especially when you're talking about social media, to start feeling like you have to make up stuff, because everything has to look great all the time, and
or not.
Yes, or it doesn't have to look great, and nor do you have to share every bad thing that happens or every good thing that happens. But I think I wanted to say that it has to, for you to have happiness from what you're doing. You can fake it as much as you want. It has to be real. Otherwise, you're not going to be happy, right? And so that's what I was trying to get at.
Well, and for me, I mean, I've spent the majority of my life and most of my career in service.
Yes.
Whether it was sales or restaurants, and that never occurred to me. It was never really discussed, which is funny because that's
what you do.
That's the job. That's the job. Mm-hmm. It was always so much about the sale, get the sale, add to the sale, make the sale bigger next time, and in a way I started to do that thing, like added value without knowing it and knowing what it was called. I was just being myself and having fun, and fortunately for me, I worked in fields that I was passionate about, so it was easy for that to come through. I was never faking it. I always was behind what I was doing. If not, I had to leave, like just inside. I was like, it's too creepy to do that. But it's just interesting that that concept totally invaded this service industry for so long. And Professor Laurel was the first one who put that bug in my ear too. Like, what's the added value? Like for Della, what's the added value? And I was just like, shit, I don't know. Like we make good food. She's like, no, but you're a restaurant. Like you have to make good food. you know.
Yes.
So,
yes, no excuse. You have to make that.
I was like,
sure.
is it the music? you know, like what is it? And some things have become apparent over time, and it definitely has to do with the level of comfort and the vibe, and not so much about like, oh, I gave that person free dessert, you know, like that's not added value. You know, there's so many deeper levels to it, and I feel like I'm just scratching the surface, but it's completely foreign to me after being in the service industry for so long, like 25 years. It's like,
well, I mean, it's funny how these things happen, but I think it's like me being unhappy in the garment center for 24 years and I had just sort of decided that there was no way out.
Right.
Until one day there was a way out. And so I think you can get tunnel vision. It's important to sort of just keep yourself open
and for me it had a lot to do with the way I was taught, you know, starting in this industry like the early 90s, and it was still like the 1980s kind of Wall Street movie, you know, Michael Douglas Wall Street movie mentality. And a lot of the people that I work for, even though they were like nice guys, you know, good people, that was just the pervasive mentality at the time. And what's very liberating now is the people that I listen to that are business leaders are like, fuck that shit, you know, like we got to move on, and it has to do more with added value, really delivering on the service, no expectations, you know, just put what you feel is right out there. Yes. And do it repeatedly, and just don't worry about it, you know, because you have no control anyways. Like, stop obsessing over what's the quarter going to be like, or the month, or the year to year, you know.
But if you believe in what you're offering, then you're providing a service.
Right. And if you can do it in a very sincere way. And for me, what I'm finding is that that's the base level. That's as far as I've gotten. Sorry, guys. So far is to do it in a really sincere and thoughtful and honest way. I feel like that's a good foundation, and that there's a lot of other layers that I'm just not aware of yet. But I feel like that's a good place to start. Yeah. And so that was the situation for you once you came on board with this musician who's quite.
His name is Krishna Das. For some people may or may not know him, and
he's quite popular. He plays internationally.
He does. He tours just like a regular rock musician.
Like a rocker.
And so there is
He's
plenty
like
of
the rock and roll haiku guy, right?
Yeah, there's plenty of behind the scenes work for him. It's beautiful to see, you know, if I can help him do his thing and he's helping so many people, then I feel like
that's tons of service, right?
Purposeful, the work that I do on behind the scenes, and so I'm really so grateful to be able to do it every day. I wake up thinking about that, and my older sister is the person who's my immediate boss, and she also is a singer, and I still sometimes pinch myself that I get to wake up and do this and do it from my home and pick up my kids from school. I mean, my kids are big now, but when I started this, they weren't, you know, and it was, but I still want to say, I feel very lucky, but I still want to say that there was an openness. I was not looking in the same box anymore. And that I think was hugely helpful for me to be able to think that this was an option to offer myself, for them to feel it from me, or to feel like they could trust me to do something or whatever. So it was really, it was great. That's why it was sort of surprising to me when I started to feel like I needed something else, you know, and when I started to paint. But I think that was more that I'm sort of an artist. I'm an artist at heart. Like, that's
it's inspirational as well. Like I think you were probably feeding off of that energy, and it fueled another part of your brain that brought you joy.
I was with all these people that you know that sang or played. I mean, there's a bunch of really amazing musicians too that play with them, and they're all doing the thing that speaks to them. And so I think I felt like my expression is the painting. That's just the way I do it. Like I said, I don't sing or play an instrument, and that was awesome for me to be able to pursue that and to be able to do it at a pace that, again, didn't